Cheltenham Festival coverage on Off the Ball.
With Boyle Sports. Epic. Cheltenham. 18 plus. Gamble responsibly. See gamblingcare.ie.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5. This is Saturday panel. And this week, thanks to Boyle Sports, we're looking ahead to the 2023 Cheltenham National Hunt Horse Racing Festival, which starts on Tuesday. Cheltenham is synonymous with Irish sporting success, from Cottage Rake to Arkle, from Vincent O'Brien to Willie Mullins, from Dawn Run to Istabrack, from Ruby Walsh to Rachel Blackmore, from Harley Eustace to Honeysuckle. Now, over the last 7 years, there have been more Irish-trained winners at the festival than the home contingent. Last year, there were 18. Willie Muddles saddles 10 of them. So we can't wait for some great racing, responsible flutter, good crack on St. Patrick's Week, and to get stuck in. We're delighted to be joined over the next hour by the Cheltenham Gold Cup winning jockey and Boyle Sports ambassador Robbie Power, Cheltenham Champion Chase winning jockey and TV pundit Andy McNamara, and Cheltenham Festival winning trainer Paul Nolan. Robbie, Andy and Paul, how was the form, lads?
All good, John.
All good, John.
Great to talk to you. I'm just going to get straight stuck into the conversation. Your best Cheltenham moment. Paul Nolan, what was your best Cheltenham moment?
I'd say that the best Cheltenham moment, I'd nearly have to put it down the first winner, Dabaroon with Nina Carberry, because we were fancied in the champion hurdle with a card in a toile, and he ran a great race. He finished fourth. He was only beaten 3.5 lengths, but we were disappointed, even though we got into the winners' enclosure. It's never too bad when you can get in there, but we were disappointed. And the last race on the day then was the Fred Winter that time. And Nina sluiced up with Dabaroon, and it's just to be disappointed and then to be elated unexpectedly. He was 20-1, and I'd say I'd have to put down that was the first winner in Cheltenham, and we were just delighted.
So you're all those months in Enniscorthy, you're training away, you're in bad winter months, and then you're waiting for this day, and then you have an unexpected winner. So the feeling must be unbelievable. Yeah,
it's unbelievable. I mean, no matter what people say, it probably is the Olympics of racing, even though we've marvellous racing in Leopardstown and all the good courses here, but it is where nearly every owner wants to end up, and it's just, no matter what race you win in it, it's just something special.
Did you have good connections? Did you go out partying that night, do you remember?
Yeah, we did. We tend to sort of party over smaller things, even, John. But we did. Look at the head of the other fella. We did go out and went out. Normally we sort of hang around with the same crew every year. We're gonna that little bit settled now. This way, we tend to go to bed at a reasonable hour and stuff like that. But
can you believe that, John?
No.
Heading him this morning. It's a Friday. God knows what he was at last night.
We genuinely do. Not able for it anymore. But I know we had a great night, and it was brilliant for Nina as well. And all connections. We had a great night, and I think we were celebrating with Colin Murphy the same night. And we had a great crack.
Andy McNamara, your best Cheltenham moment?
Well, I only had one winner over there, so I'll stick with that. So Newmill was it, yeah. I had been riding him earlier in the year, but I switched jobs, so I got chopped off Newmill, and Robbie Power taken over the riding him and won him at Thurles. But Robbie got injured, so I got back on for Cheltenham. And probably a bit lucky in hindsight that Kautastar was in the race and he tipped up, but he won very well for a finish up.
2 mile champion chase, breakneck speed, you're out in front. What is the feeling like riding in such a race of speed and you're out in front? Is it like you're just trying to hold on tight, or what's the story?
I suppose it is probably the most exciting race that I would find anyway, 2 mile chasers. And you do need a good forward going, possibly keen, brave horse, and he was definitely all of those things. He was quite keen. So on the day, I'm not sure Connections wanted him to make the running, but I definitely did. So I actually didn't go out to the parade ring on time, left it very late, so I wouldn't have to chat to them and discuss tactics. So left it late, had in my head I was going to make the running, so just popped out last minute and up on the horse and out we went. And the race went very well. For a front runner, he jumped very well, made one mistake about 2 out or something, but never really saw a rival.
What's it like to ride that course, Cheltenham? There's 2 courses, an old course and a new course side by side. A lot of undulations. Is it different to what you see in the TV?
No, it is quite undulating, quite tight. You're often on the turn, so it probably makes for more exciting racing. Often the best tracks are not the most exciting to watch because everything's very fair, easy to do, and you have lots of time to get back into a race. Whereas some place like Cheltenham, where you're always on the turn, you know, if you get caught wide, you're giving away ground everywhere, and the fences come at you on bends and things, so it's thick and fast. And it's a very exciting track to ride, and it gets very busy in places, but that also makes for better television. And a bit like Epsom, you know, isn't that good a track, but it's the home of the Derby, and that's possibly why they're better festivals to watch.
Is the hill really, really punishing? Do you really feel it when you get to the last, or if you have enough horse, does he even come into your mind, the hill?
Well, it definitely comes into your mind in that you need to leave a bit in the tank turning for home. But I think it's when you hit it, one horse clicks into gear and relishes it. And a couple I've ridden have gone the other way, not managed it. And while you might go down to the last with a chance, they haven't fought it out. Robbie
Power, your best Cheltenham moment?
Definitely 2017 when St John won the Gold Cup, and then to follow up with Rock the World in the Grand Annual. Try to Dublin Cheltenham was something special, and no, today you'll never forget. The Gold Cup is the race that every jockey wants to win.
What's the feeling like, Robbie, when you're maybe two fences from home and you feel like you're in with a real chance here? And is it just concentration on the process, or are you thinking about, oh my God, I'm going to actually achieve my lifetime dream here?
No, it never entered my head actually until I was about 10 strides away from the line that I was going to win a Gold Cup. But turning in, he actually stumbled across in the roadway heading for the second last. So straight away you were getting him balanced. Ruby looked to be going well enough on the inside on Jackadam. But you have two fences, the second last and the last in Cheltenham are two tricky fences. They're your main focus is getting two good jumps, because if you get a bad jump at either one, you can lose a lot of momentum. It's hard to get momentum back when you up that hill in Cheltenham, you know, so you need forward momentum over the last two, and luckily for me, St John winged the second last and met the last on the perfect stride and landed with plenty of momentum.
So you crossed the line, you've won the Gold Cup, you won the Grand National on Silver Birch a decade before. Could you compare the feelings?
Yeah, I suppose I appreciated the Gold Cup an awful lot more. I was pretty young when I won the Grand National. I was only 25, and I think we just kind of went on the piss for about 3 months after winning the Grand National. But I'd been through a lot since the Grand National. I'd broken a lot of bones. Had plenty of ups and downs of race, and I was 35 years of age, and I'd never actually ridden in a Gold Cup. I never thought I was going to get to ride in a Gold Cup, and then St John came along. So for your first ride in the Gold Cup to be a winning one was massive, you know, and it definitely, especially to ride that for Jessie as well, who'd been basically my whole career, rode for her all my life, and to ride a Gold Cup winner for her, she hadn't won one either. It was her first runner in the Gold Cup, so that was extra special.
Paul Nolan, do you enjoy the week? Like when you think about the Irish to Cheltenham, we're synonymous with travelling like in a pilgrimage over there. Like we got Munster fans who go abroad, we've Irish soccer and rugby fans who go to Lansdowne Road, we've the All-Ireland finals at Croke Park every year, we have League of Ireland games on a Friday. But for so many people, they're spending maybe 6 to 9 months thinking about Cheltenham, booking their flights, booking their accommodation, doing their anti-post bets, meeting the characters, having their card games. It is some week.
Unbelievable, John, you know, and it's amazing, I suppose. It seems a small circle enough that we're all involved in, that we meet the same people at the races every day, and when you go over, you know, there's nothing could happen in any yard in Ireland that wouldn't be known in the UK in 10 minutes. It's amazing the way the whole thing, everyone sort of they're involved with the horses, and they know what's going on in other yards as well, and that's the thing about it. But it's
a very,
I suppose, the rivalry. What?
It's a very gossipy game.
It is. It's a very gossipy game, and you know, there's so many opinions between lads that are working in the yard or the girls that are working in the yard and everyone else, from trainers to jockeys. And everyone has their opinion, and they're entitled to their opinion, and that's what makes it. But it's unbelievable. You know, everyone thought that maybe that the Cheltenham previews when they started off first, that how will the last, that people get so bored, and yet people are still come to support them, and they're there with their pens and their papers writing down stuff, and we don't probably realise the amount of people that are interested in it, and I suppose that's what makes it so good.
Robbie, what's it like behind the scenes? If you were to bring us behind the scenes as a jockey of the week, is it more tense than normal? Are there rows? Do people, you know, lose their rag? Is there elation? Is there champagne popping in the weigh room? Maybe give us a sense of what goes behind the camera.
Yeah, it changed a lot over the years. When I was riding, when I first rode in Cheltenham, it was very enjoyable. It was great banter. It was still extremely serious and a little bit tense, but it got more and more professional over the years. you could see the pressure built with Cheltenham as the years went on. The focus became more and more about Cheltenham, and the pressure did build. Years in Cheltenham, it was very, your routine was set in stone. You know, you went to the road out in the morning at the racetrack, you went back to the house, got changed, you went to the weigh room, you went through the form of all your races, you went back to the house in the evening, had a shower, had a bit of tea, and went to bed, you know. And it was very, very, yeah, that was you weren't out socialising in Cheltenham. You couldn't go out socialising in Cheltenham. Even if you were only out having a 7-Up, you couldn't do it, because if you were drinking 7-Up, the rumour the next day was you were drinking Vulcan White. So you never went out, you never ventured too far. But this is going to be my first year in Cheltenham. Not riding, it'll be a different experience, and I think I'll use Paul Nolan as my wingman this year, just to show me around all these places, because he has been to them all.
Paul Nolan, what's the best place for Cheltenham?
As bouncer, John, as bouncer.
What's the best place for 7-Up in Cheltenham, Paul Nolan?
Oh God, we normally we go now to the tent at the hunting butts, so we very rarely go downtown at all now for the last couple of years, and you know, the people that run that are just brilliant, and we're very lucky where we stay, and you know, you know, hope to God we remain that they remain renting the cottages that we stay in, but they provide great entertainment and food and stuff right beside us, so we don't have to go downtown anymore, John.
Andy Mack,
very rarely for you is just once a day.
You're painting a very bad picture of me here, John. We're going to have to set this straight before this is all over.
Yeah. Well, Andy Mack, have you?
Could I make what Puppy was saying about the weigh room there? That there is a slight unique aspect to the weigh room, that other sports, say team sports, you come in and the team wins and they're all elated together and, you know, clapping each other on the back and hugging and kissing. Whereas racing is unusual in that everybody's competing against each other, comes back in and get changed in the same changing room. So you could have one fella who's elated after winning the Gold Cup, you know, sitting in one seat, and the guy beside him could be after making a mess of it on the favourite. And so it's a very strange atmosphere like that. So
you need a bit of maturity then. I suppose you need to be able to take the champion down a peg or two and maybe bump up the guy whose absolute mind is in a desperate place, Andy, yeah?
Well, I don't know if there's that much support for each other, but you will see one fella coming in delighted, another fella coming in flying a saddle across the weigh room, and yeah, so it is strange to see them both in the same place.
Did you do that?
I'd be a quiet man myself.
Right. Okay. Very good, Andy. So, was there much of a transition between you then? Did you find it easy to adjust to being at the race course and riding winners at New Mill at Cheltenham, and then retiring and then going there next week? And you're not like, would you miss it? Would you be just, I wish I was out there?
I suppose that's probably fading for me now, but definitely for a long time, yeah. So I struggled with my weight all along, so that was a kind of a relief, I suppose, not to have to do that anymore. But there would have been times I'd be out walking the track and, you know, the horse would be flying by, jumping the second last someplace, and I'd be thinking, geez, I'd love to be up there sitting on the back of one. But I do ride out and things, so I suppose that keeps that appetite sated.
You're doing a bit of training up in Meath as well. Let's get into it then, folks. Let's look at the key races over the week. On Tuesday, the Champion Hurdle Half-3, we've got Constitution Hill, the odds-on favourite for the English trainer, Nicky Henderson. And Robbie Power, he won the Supreme Novices Hurdle by 22 lengths last year. He's unbeaten under rules. He looks a machine. He looks an airplane.
Yeah, he does. He definitely looks the best I've seen since Istabrack. But he has to go and do it on the big stage. He was very, very impressive last year in the Supreme Novices. All through the summer, I was a little bit sceptical of the form of the Supreme Novices. It was running very quick ground. And when he beat the track record, it was ground that was the quickest ground I ever rode in Cheltenham. So I was a little bit sceptical of the form, but he was very, very impressive in Newcastle and impressive in Kempton as well. I think he'll win. I think he'll win well, but I do think Statler will give him, or not Statler, Statement will give him plenty to think about. I think Statement's a very, very good horse. He's on the improve. I was very, very impressed with him at the Dublin Racing Festival. I thought Vaughn might get a bit closer to him on Christmas runnings, but he improved again, and Willie Mullins will have him at peak for Cheltenham. You know, he's a horse on the improve, and I know Nicky Henderson, I was over in his yard a few weeks ago, is treating him as a serious danger, and I think that's the respect he deserves. He is a serious danger.
Paul Nolan, we don't know how good Constitution Hill is, but we also probably don't know how good Stateman is.
Well, it's just in the manner of the way he made all in Leopardstown, jumped very well, quickened off the turn into from the second last and put the race to bed. And to see Honeysuckle galloping right to the line as well. I mean, the other ones in behind were sort of ridden to go past her and they still couldn't pass her. And yet Stateman won, you could say, snug. And in my opinion anyway, it's definitely Constitution Hill's biggest test so far. He's beaten, I think it's Epatante he beat in his last 2 runs. He beat her 17 lengths and 12 lengths. She's a former champion hurdler herself. Very consistent filly as well. I mean, it's very, very good form. But I do think that Stateman is his nearest challenger, obviously. I think he will put it up to him.
Is it a 2-horse race, Andy, between Constitution Hill and Stateman?
I think definitely. I think both would have to seriously underperform for something like Vauban to come into the race. And then you go by Vauban and, it's a long, long way back to the next. And there's a lot of those will run in the mare's race. And then you're back to something like, I like the way you move it. For me, Constitution Hill is an absolute freak. I mean, it's like something like Frankel arriving on the scene. What he did in the Supreme last year, don't know how Puppy wasn't impressed by it. Like, there have been plenty of times where the Supreme was run on good ground or quicker than good ground. And to win the way he did in a track record is phenomenal. I think it's great that Stateman is there because that gives us a very good guide. Stateman's a proper good horse. But I think Constitution Hill will devour him. He's one for the ages.
Very emphatic, Andy McNamara. Constitution Hill. Are you going for the same Puppy Power, Constitution Hill?
Yeah, I think he'll win, but I don't think it'll be as emphatic as Andy makes out. I think Stateman will give him a race.
And Paul Nolan, Constitution Hill?
I'm the same as Puppy. I think that, possibly that, but I think it will be closer than an annihilation. Now, everyone maybe thought that last year as well, and Constitution Hill won so easy in that unbelievable time, which you have to consider. But I just think that it's amazing. It's just talking to a few people, Constitution Hill is one of the most laid back animals Nicky Henderson had said that he has ever had in training. And David Mullen said when Stateman came into Willys as well, he was so laid back. He thought he was so slow that he'd struggle to win a point to point. That's how slow and laid back he was. And it's unbelievable to see 2 of the most laid back creatures in the sport are running in the fastest hurdle of the week. And it's just, isn't it amazing to say that both of them are such quiet, laid back animals that are behind the bridle at home that you wouldn't give tuppence for. And yet they are as 2 champions going to take one another on.
Paul, would you find that say people are always asking at these, how's the horse working? How's the horse working? And what are they doing at home? But it's often not the horse who looks good at home that goes and is the good racehorse then.
Absolutely, Andrew. It's unbelievable how, it's the good horses are so few and far between, but yet it's the one that goes to the top of your gallop and they're taking a hold or running away at the top. Maybe if your gallop was a furlong longer, that stop and walk the rest of the way. It seems to be the one that tries at a certain stage of the gallop to the line. It's the ones that try normally are the good horses. And I believe that when Constitution Hill came to Nicky's first, they nearly wanted to give him back. And it was something similar with the way Stateman performed, according to David Mullins as well. It was just unbelievable how laid back and unimpressive at home these horses were. And it's just probably that those horses tend to last to their chasing stage and they go through each season because they're not hyper, they're not hard rides, and they just take it all in their stride and maybe don't do too much at home, and that's maybe why they last so long.
Let's move on now to the Champion Chase on Wednesday at 3:30. We've got a last year's winner, Energyman, the Arkle Chase winner from last year, Edward Stone, a horse that beat the pair of them last time out, and Editor Jujit, also the impressive Leopardstown winner, Gentleman Demi. So Robbie Power, which horse would you like to be riding in this one?
I change my mind every day with this race. It's a very, very competitive race. I was impressed with both Edward Stone and Editor Jujit in Cheltenham back in January. And Energyman was disappointing for me. I think they'll ride Energyman a bit closer to the pace. He won a Champion Chase last year very impressively on very soft ground. I think if the ground gets soft, it enhances his chances. But I think if it's run on good or yielding ground, then it's going to play to the strengths of Edwardstone and Editor to Jeet more. I think it's going to be tougher this time for Editor to Jeet because he's going to have a lot of competition for the pace with Gentleman to Me in there. He'll definitely go forward. It's going to be like all champion chases. It's going to be very, very strongly run. I think at the prices, I'm just slightly favouring Edwardstone over Energumene. I think he's a more solid horse around Cheltenham than Energumene.
So Robbie Puppy Power goes for Edwardstone in the champion chase. Andy McNamara, the same question to you. Who would you like to be riding? Who's the next new mill?
I'd like to be on Energumene. I think he's a brilliant 2-miler. You know, he absolutely bolted up in the champion chase last year. And, you know, without his last run, he's an absolute certainty. He absolutely bolted up in Cork. Now, it was an ordinary race, but put in a great round, won by 15 lengths. And then he goes to Cheltenham behind Editor to Jeet. But he had an absolute nightmare from the word go. It really didn't happen for him. He made a lot of mistakes on the way around, ran very keen, was hanging. And then he turned in and still had a little chance down to the last where he absolutely devoured it and was still only beaten 6 lengths. So that's not a huge amount to turn around. And there's no way he can put in as bad a performance throughout the race as he did last time. So for me, he's easily the best horse in the race if he can put in a half-decent round of jumping.
An argument for Andy McNamara. Paul Nolan, which one of these would you like to be training come Wednesday?
I'm with Andy on this. I just think Energumene. I think you have to forgive him that last run. And if it hadn't have happened, now it did happen, but he never looked happy. He was never in the same rhythm that he normally is. He's normally jumping is an asset to him, and it wasn't. And Willie blamed, I think, the white fences. And there's no doubt. Some people might think it's bullshit, but from someone that didn't ride before, I'd like Puppy's and Andy's opinion of it, but it certainly does make a difference. We went out now and painted the hurdles and fences out here with the white stripes, and you couldn't believe that a few of the handicappers here, the way they did take a look at it, and we had to jump it 3 or 4 times until they start winging it again. But there's no doubt it did make a bit of a difference, and maybe, and like, I mean, who's to criticise Willie Mullins? He's very rarely wrong, and to me, the horse never got into a rhythm from the start, and why not believe Willie that it was the fences?
Puppy Power, white fences, conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I personally don't think it makes any difference to a good jumper. Yes, I could understand they might go down and have a look at the first, but every trainer in Ireland now has painted their hurdles and fences with a white apron, and I don't see it being...
At that time, though, Puppy.
Yeah,
they had.
Right.
They had no. Willie's gone and bought something like 3 new completely white fences, like the English ones.
Willie was also blaming the green apron with the white for Energumene's mistake, because most of the fences in England are all brown aprons. The only it was an excuse, and it was a valid excuse because he hadn't seen the white aprons 9 times out. I don't think it was the reason he jumped the way he did the whole way around that day. I think it was the fact that they were riding. He was going on ground that was as quick as he'd ever raced on. Was a big part of it, and I think that's where I think he's a little bit vulnerable. If the ground is on the soft side, I think he'll win and win impressively. If the ground is not on the soft side, I think he's vulnerable because I think he's going to put a gear quicker than he wants to.
They're talking about the ground being on the soft side on Tuesday, but by the time Wednesday comes, there's just spotty showers forecast for the week, so we know that Cheltenham dries out pretty quickly. Anybody give Gentleman to Me a chance?
Yeah, it's funny how he put in, after being very good last year, especially in entry, he started off this year terribly, put in no runs at all. And then under Danny came out and seemed to capture his old form, taking everyone by surprise. Yeah, I'd say he has a chance. He's a live contender, but things need to go very right for him. He's a very keen horse. Mark Walsh got on well with him last year. I'd say, yeah, if he gets into a rhythm and jumps very well, he would have a chance. But I think things definitely need to go right for him.
I'd say the quicker the ground, the better his chance.
Right, the quicker the round for Gentleman to Me, says Robbie Power, Ball Sports Ambassador. We're looking before the break to just preview the Stairs Hurdle and the Ryanair Chase here with Andy McNamara, Paul Nolan and Robbie Power. So on Thursday, we got 3:30 the Stairs Hurdle, and before that, the Ryanair Chase at 2:50, generally kind of the two big races on Thursday. So Robbie, you know the Hatton's Grace Hurdle winner, Teopu, very well. Does he have the right profile to win the Stairs Hurdle over 3 miles?
Yeah, I think he definitely does. He was a horse that had the class to win 2-mile races over graded 2-mile races on very soft ground. I don't think he's ground dependent. I think he's and that's why he got taken off his feet in the champion hurdle in both Punchestown and Cheltenham last year. He couldn't cope with it. I don't think it's a ground thing. I think it's a stamina thing. So jump to 3 miles. he showed in Gorn, while it was a weak race, he showed he does stay 3 miles. And his performance in the Hatton's Grace is probably the standout form line for this race. I thought that was a very good run, beating Classical Dream and Honeysuckle. So 3 miles is really going to suit him. The new course, the Stairs Hurdle, is a real test of stamina. I think Maria's Rock will be a big danger if she goes for the Stairs Hurdle, and definitely the likes of Florence Porter. He's won the last 2. If Gavin Cromwell is back in good form, it'll be very interesting.
Paul Nolan, there's question marks over Flooring Porter's form, Blazing Cal's fitness, Ashdale Bob's stamina, Paisley Park's age. Is this an easy puzzle to solve for you?
It's not an easy puzzle at all. In the Stairs Hurdle, all when the likes of big books and all, it was so consistent. But the likes of this, it in the last few years, Tia Hoopo, in my opinion, I agree with Puppy there. His form in the Hatton's Grace hadn't much to beat maybe in Gorn, but he's still done it so easily. And I'd say maybe if Davy had realised he was going to take off the way he did, he probably mightn't have won as far, because it was Gorn that time of the year can be very, very tacky, and normally coming out of that race, it takes more out of it than you think. And that's a little bit of a worry. Again, Gordon is completely adamant that it's not ground, it's the distance he'll improve with. He's shown that. Charles Burns' horse was very good above Inavon the other day. That looked very good for his first run for a long time. And he's probably, he is the favourite in it. Again, Flooring Porter, a dual winner. If he comes back to form and jumps well and is allowed to do his customary front running performance, but on the base of his last 2 runs, he just didn't get to the line too well. But Gavin Cromwell's horses are flying between the flat and jumps. He's hammering in doubles and trebles there every week, and he has to come into the equation as well. Classical Dream hasn't sort of really give a performance like he did in Punchestown when he ran away with that race that day and looked like he could have been there for a couple of years. But I think, and as Puppy said, Maria's Rock, definitely with her £7 allowance, would have to come into to the equation. She won the Grade 1 in Punchestown after winning in Cheltenham last year. But on form, I'd nearly go with Theo Hoopo on this, and I think he'll take a lot of beating if he comes out of that race in Gorn well.
Andy McNamara, home by the Lees, the improver in the race. Does he come into the equation? He was 6th last year, I believe.
Definitely does, yeah. Just the day he won in Navan, he looked like he was going to be pulled up by the stands and then pulled it out of the bag. He's a very lazy runner, which actually can often suit a stairs hurdle because it's such a test of stamina. You remember Big Bucks would only just click into gear at the back of the last, and Paisley Park was the same as that. I think it's a really, really good renewal. Sometimes you have an ordinary stairs hurdle, but this is, every one of those ones we've mentioned are very good horses. But I definitely give a big shout to Classical Dream. He's only had the 1 run this year when just touched off by Tia Hoopo. But I think the ground here, that was on soft ground. I think Classical Dream, he's a great Cheltenham record, and he will definitely relish the quicker going.
So you're going for Classical Dream, Andy?
Yep.
And Robbie, Teahupoo?
Teahupoo, yeah.
And Paul?
Yeah, Tia Hoopo as well with me.
Okay. Is Shishkin a good thing, Paul, for the Ryanair chase? Yes or no?
A good thing, I suppose, is a little bit strong. He on his last performance, he was fantastic. Nicky Henderson was on a Zoom the other day at one of the Cheltenham previews we're at, and he couldn't be any more happy with him. He said he had some sort of bone pain in Cheltenham last year when he flopped, and then he had his palate tweaked. The one thing, and the lads that know about this maybe is right as regards horses, we'll say a wind operation is a far more hob day is a far more straightforward operation than pallet firing, and normally that comes back to haunt him again. And if the ground came up soft and he wasn't fluent over his jumps, that the likes of that the pallet can flip again, and that can cause problems where they can't breathe properly. So it by no means a certainty. On his last run, he looks like he is. But at the price he's going to be, I'd rather just watch him, and if he wins, he wins.
Robbie, is Shishkin a good thing?
I agree with Paul. I don't think he's a good thing. I think there's plenty in here to make him race for it. I was very impressed with him in Ascot, and if he turns up in Ascot form, he will take plenty of beating. But that was his first run for a while. He's had a lot of issues. I'd say Nicky Henderson had him absolutely 110% for Ascot. He'd have left nothing to work on because there was a lot of pressure on him that day. He could just not come out of the race the way Nicky thinks, but we'll know more on the day. there's plenty in there with the likes of NYLN, Blue Lord. I imagine is definitely going to go here, and I think you're going to see a better Blue Lord. Stepped up in trip. He was good in the Clonmel Oil Chase. Stepped up to 2.5. Yeah, I wouldn't back Shishkin now personally, but I think Blue Lord is a big danger to him.
And Andy, for you?
Yeah, well, wouldn't be backing a horse at 8-11 anyway. Not that I bet that much, but yeah, 8-11. But when you go and see what is in against him, I'd slightly disagree with Puppy. Shishkin's won 12 from 15. You know, it's not like he's a complete flop. He had a bad run he pulled up, and then he had an ordinary run. He seemed very much back to himself. The wind up obviously helped him. Blue Lord for me is nowhere near that caliber of a horse. I think Blue Lord won a number of okay races. When he stepped up last time, he was well beaten. So I don't think he's in that caliber. Conflated is a fair horse, but I'd imagine he goes for the Gold Cup. And then you have the likes of Janadil, Fury Road, Envoy Allen, they're fair horses, and put Fakir Dudair in there. They're fair horses. They're, grade 1 horses. But I think Shishkin, if his wind holds up, which I'd imagine it would, I think he will take a huge amount to beat him.
We're going to take a break for news. More insight from our Saturday panel of Robbie Power, Paul Nolan and Andrew McNamara. Looking ahead to the Cheltenham Festival is coming up after this. And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with the 3 to 5. Now, this is part 2 of the Saturday panel as we preview the 2023 Cheltenham National Hunt Horse Racing Festival with thanks to Ball Sports. We're delighted to be in the company of the Cheltenham Gold Cup winning jockey and Ball Sports ambassador Robbie Puppy Power, Cheltenham Champion Chase winning jockey and TV pundit Andy McNamara, and the Cheltenham Festival winning trainer Paul Nolan. Let's get into novice chasers now. Robbie, Gordon Elliott has got 2 good young horses in Jerry Calam, who's favoured for the 3-mile race on the Wednesday, the Brown Advisory, and Mighty Potter, who's improving for the move to fences and is the market leader for the Turner's Novice Chase on the Thursday. Are these pair worthy favourites?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big Jerry Calam fan. Rode him a good bit in Gordon's last year, and he's chasing is always going to be his game. He's won 2 grade 1s over 2.5 mile, and I think you're going to see a huge improvement when he steps up to 3 mile. Once the ground is not on the quick side, because he does hit the ground and he likes a bit of an ease in it. So once the ground is not quick, he'll be 100%. I think he'll take an awful lot of beating in the Brown Advisory. And then Mighty Potter, you can be nothing but impressed with Mighty Potter this season. I was so impressed with him in the Hatton's Grace in the Drinmore at the Hatton's Grace meeting. I thought he made a couple of mistakes, sort of 4 out and 3 out, but he learned from them. He was very, very good. He's got an awful amount of scope, and he's very, very quick through the air. I think this 2-mile 5 trip will definitely suit him. And it's a division, the stay and chase division from 2.5 mile up is a division that Willie hasn't been very strong in this year. I think Gordon holds the key to it, and I think he's got 2 very, very good horses. I don't think Willie's got a whole lot to oppose him with. Probably his biggest danger is Sir Gerhard, is probably the biggest danger to Jerry Calam, but his jumping in Gordon left a lot to be desired. I think he needs to improve plenty on it.
What about the Arkle Chase, Andy McNamara? John Bon and El Fabiolo head the market there.
Yeah, I'd be all over El Fabiolo here. I suppose to myself and a lot of others, he wasn't the big fancy at the Dublin Racing Festival, but supposedly afterwards, somebody was telling me that he was the one Willie Mullins fancied out of his team, which included Dysart Dynamo, the 3rd favourite here. I'd have El Fabiolo over John Bon. Everybody tells me I'm nuts, but I don't think John Bon jumps well enough. For me, he looks a bit kind of straight back, meaning he's not the most agile horse in the world. He was jumping well when, he hasn't been put under any pressure, shall I say, running in small fields over fences. And I think when to be a real good 2-miler, you need to be able to stand off a real long stride, and you also need to be, if things aren't happening, to shorten quickly. I don't think he'll shorten quickly enough, and I think there'll be 1 or 2 stages through the race where he'll lose a couple of lengths, and that'll be race over.
Paul Nolan, which novice chaser would you like to have in your hands this week? I haven't mentioned the likes of Banbridge, Saint Roi, Blue Lord, Appreciated, Time Hill.
Yeah, sure. Listen, they've all chances, John. I suppose that the 3 standout ones are the ones we're after mentioning, and I was very impressed with it. Fabiola, I thought that in the manner he was it the third last or the fourth last that he made a mistake and stumbled at the back of it, lost the length, but then he winged the second last and he winged the last, and Darryl Jacob sort of got stuck into him and probably didn't realise that he went away. He didn't realise he was going to win as easy. Did he win 10 lengths, lads? Was it 10 lengths he pulled away and won? And it's the manner and the way he hit the line. He was very, very good the way he hit the line, and that's normally where, you know, it's normally those horses that hit the line and run through the line very well. As was, you know, Mighty Potter, the same thing. He hit the line and he was very impressive. And I agree with the lads as well that Gordon seems to have a better hand in the novice chasers than the hurdling end of it. But certainly, I think they're definitely. Probably, I think that Jerry Colombe has it most to do with the like of Sir Gerhard. He's won in Cheltenham twice. He won the bumper, and he won the. What did he win last year, lads? What hurdle race did he win?
Two mile life.
Yeah, and maybe he's jumping, but he was out there on his own in Gorn in a forerunner field or something like that. So, but I just think he's been there and done that. And I think that he is Jerry Colombe's biggest danger. I agree with the lads. Jerry Colombe is probably going to be more at home. The softer the ground is, the better he'll be. His least impressive performance was on good ground in Thurles as a hurdler. And the one thing about him is, lads, he's unbeaten from all his runs, which is a big thing. That he never going to be that maybe impressive, but he always does enough and hits the line very well. And I think that this is going to be Gordon's strongest division.
Okay, the novice hurdlers, Paul, Sander Clegane running free on Friday in the Albert Bartlett over 3 miles. You've had latest exhibition go close in this. What about the chances of your horse this year?
Yeah, I think he's a good chance, John. You know, we hadn't got a smooth run into Leopardstown, and hopefully that's behind him now. And I think that he was beaten 4 lengths. I was you know, when you'd look at it, if you didn't realise maybe what maybe happened to him, he looked like he was going to be the best challenger to Barry's horse, but from the last of the line, his head came up that little bit, and he still battled on to hold on to third place. Granted, the form with the horse that finished second of Gordon's was rated 131 going into the race. The horse that finished fourth that we just beat was rated 132. That doesn't look good enough to go and win in Cheltenham. But I'm hoping my fella will be a better horse in Cheltenham than he was in Leopardstown. Obviously, if JP's new horse, Corbett's Cross, turns up for the race, he'll be probably a very sharp price favourite. He looked very good in Naas over a trip inadequate to him. So he looks to be ticking all the boxes regards stamina and speed. And if he turns up, he'll be a worthy favourite and very hard to beat.
Who should we be looking at for in these novice hurdles? Andy McNamara, Facile Vega, favourite for the Supreme on Tuesday, Imperi Pass for the longer race, the Ballymore on the Wednesday.
The Supreme is the one I think is a wide open race. Facile Vega for me is the best horse, but you know, the last that he was well stuffed in 5th, and now I know they say the race didn't pan out. The Joseph O'Brien horse took him on early and they both ran much too hard. So it's understandable that he did fold late on and didn't get home. That said, and they'll ride him differently this time. But that said, he had an extremely hard race because of that at the Dublin Racing Festival. So no better man than Willie to freshen him up and go again. But it still would be a worry. And 15 to 8 looks a bit of a short price on that. Marine Nationale hasn't run for since the Royal Bond either. And that form is, you know, it's decent. But Barry Connell is fiercely confident on him, thinks he's definitely the best horse in the race. Imperi Pass might step up and trip. So something like Elate Tom could be a good value bet in a race like this that might cut up a bit.
That's the Supreme Novices Hurdle on the Tuesday, the opening race at Cheltenham. Robbie Power, do you like anything in terms of the favourites in the novice hurdles and maybe one of the outsiders?
I'd lay Facile Vega all day long after, as Andy was saying, hard race in the Dublin Racing Festival. I think the bookies on the day will get stuck into him because coming off that bad run, I think, and the fact that Willie, I was on a panel with David Casey last week and he said Willie's going to run 4 or 5 in the Supreme Novices. That shows that he doesn't have the confidence in him either. If Willie has one he thinks is going to go and win, he doesn't run 3 or 4 more with him. So the fact he's going to run 4 or 5 in the Supreme would have a little bit of lack of confidence in Facile Vega. I think Willie Mullins will win the Supreme, but I don't know if it'll be Facile Vega. Then the Ballymore, I think Henry de Bromhead will probably run in the pocket in the Ballymore. I think he's got an each way chance at a decent price. the Ballymore looks a very, very competitive race. It's probably one of the novice hurdles of the season. I think In the Pocket run very well. And then again, the 3 mile, the Albert Bartlett, 2 horses, I think Hidden Valley Lake will run a big race in that. But the horse I think that's going to take an awful lot of beating is 3 Card Bragg for Gordon Elliott and the McNeil family. He was just beaten by In the Pocket over 2.5 in Naas. He looks like a horse that is crying out for 3 miles and a test of stamina. He's going to get that, and if Adrian Heskin can hang on to him for a little bit, turning in down to the last and get a lead, I think he'll fly up that hill. I think he's a horse with bundles of stamina, and you'll see a huge improvement from him over 3 mile.
3 Card Bragg, one to watch this week at
I
Cheltenham.
For the Ballymore, I'll give Urmiz Allen a mention because he looks very good and very tough, but there's actually a possibility that the English might train a winner of a novice race as well.
Well, we'll be buying a drink for them. The juveniles and the mares races to watch, folks. Paul, on the Tuesday you saddle Metamorphosis in the juvenile handicap hurdle with Doodles. Has he got an each way squeak?
Yeah, you'd be hoping. Like, I mean, we haven't gone him that long, John. We bought him out in Dial after winning in Punchestown. It's very hard to sort of maybe assess the juveniles. You'd always want them maybe Takao would have been a real short priced favourite, but he went up a good few pounds for finishing third in the Grade 1. But he obviously still has a big chance in it. Charles Burns' horse, the race in Naas, because everything had to have their fourth run to their third run to qualify, and it seems like I went in, I believe, into the Naas race. Gordon's horse, Jazzy Matty, was going to be the highest rated horse in it, and he was going to be 125, 126. I was going to be 121, and now the English handicapper has me rated the same as Jazzy Matty off 125. But it's a very, very competitive race. My horse is a typical flatbred horse. He's small, he's butty, touch wood, he jumps well. But you look at the Gordon's horse and Willie's few in it. They're big scopy individuals, and they've probably future wise that probably end up a different type of horse than my fella. But my fella is sharp, and he's in good form. As I said, we haven't got him that long, but we're pleased with him, and I'm hoping he'll run very respectable, and he has an each way chance.
Okay, so the Triumph Hurdle on the Friday, Andy McNamara, do you have an opinion on this? Blood Destiny, Lossiemouth, Galamarso at the top of the market?
I'd be definitely big on Lossiemouth. I think definitely would have bolted up at Leopardstown had not got knocked down by its stablemate. Easily the best horse for me in Mullins's, and Willie seems to have a huge dominance in this.
Robbie Power, you ride out for Henry de Bromhead. Can Honeysuckle bring the house down in this mare's hurdle on Tuesday, her final race under Rachel Blackmore? There'll be not a dry eye in the house. Can she do it?
Yeah, I think the roof will come off Cheltenham if she does win, and I hope she does. She seems in good form. Everyone's very, very happy with her. And it could be a case that 40 minutes earlier, if Statement goes and shakes up Constitution Hill, that her price will tumble then for the mare's hurdle. I think she does have some tough opposition in Echoes in Rain. Maria's Rock, if she runs, obviously is a big threat as well. But I think Honeysuckle's form this season hasn't petered off that much. I still think she's a very good mare. I think she'll take plenty of beating it.
The handicaps, let's look at them. Paul, you've entered HMSC horse in the Carroll Cup on Wednesday. He was fourth at the festival last year, so you're hoping with a bit of a step up in trip now that he might do well.
Yeah, he seems to have improved a good bit, and I'd say mainly gelding John has been he's been a different horse since he was gelded. Touch wood, he's jumping far better, and he was rated 139. He got £7 for winning in Navan. The English handicapper gave him £4 more, so he runs off 143. But he's in great form. He'll strip fitter than he was in Navan for his first run, obviously, and we couldn't be happier with him. And he's a very small horse. He's 15-1, so he'll have to get the run of the race as regards being happy in the position where he is, obviously enough, and if his jumping is as good as it seems at home, and he has improved that much, I'm hoping to God that he'll give a very good account of himself, and we love the race to be tomorrow.
Who's riding it?
He'll be ridden by Sean O'Keefe.
Very good. Wexford man as well.
Yeah.
Robbie, we all want to go to the Caribbean later this year. So do you want first in the handicaps?
Bring me with you, will you? Yeah, look, there's plenty of good ones for handicaps. I was on a panel the other night. Gordon runs Imagine in one of the handicap hurdles, and I think probably the Martin Davy Russell was saying he'd love him to get him, try and persuade him to run him in the Coral Cup. His form is supposed to be very good at home. Adamantly chosen will run in one of the handicap chases, I'm told, and he has a big chance in whatever handicap chase he goes for. Henry will probably run Ballyaddam in one of the handicaps as well, probably the county hurdle. He was fifth in it last year. He's had a better preparation this year, and I think in a price, each way price, he'll go very, very well. So I think the Irish are going to be, I know there's a bit of complaining about the English handicapper, but I think the Irish have strong hands in all the handicaps this year.
Andy McNamara, you've been on TV all winter, so obviously you would have seen a lot of handicap horses. Have you got one for us? For the poor punters?
Yeah, I think I have one for you, and this is one that wasn't a televised race actually. Historique Récompense, don't know if that's exactly how it's pronounced, but a filly of William Mullins's again, and they own this themselves, so they bought it out of France, obviously liked what it had done over there, and I think it was rated about 116 over there. Came here and won a maiden hurdle by half the track at Tramore, and then ran in a really, really competitive mares handicap hurdle at Leopardstown, where it finished second, not beaten far. That was a really strong one, and I'd say possibly, or I'd be pretty sure, a more competitive handicap, as in I'd say there was more better handicapped horses in that than there will be at Cheltenham. It runs, I think, in the Martin Pipe. It's about 20-1. Now, the English handicapper did give her plenty as well, gave her about £10. But even at that, I'd still go with her.
Very good. We'll keep an eye for that. The final race on Wednesday is the Bumper, introduced in 1992 to give Irish horses a chance for the festival winner. If you believe the old wives' tale, be careful what you wish for. Robbie Power, this is a race of great intrigue. There are lots of whispers, no obstacles. The horses haven't raced much. Who do you like?
Yeah, it's the Bumper's very hard to get a handle on. You've only seen these horses once or twice. I really like John Kiley's horse. I was very, very impressed with the Dublin Racing Festival. If the ground was to get a bit softer, you'd probably have a slight concern. He won on softer ground than he'd raced on before at the Dublin Racing Festival, and he handled it very well. Yeah, I think he's just a standout. I was so impressed with the Dublin Racing Festival to win a race like that as impressively as he did. But Willie's going to throw 5 or 6 bullets at this as well, so it's going to be a tough race, and this horse has the ability to handle the hustle and bustle of it.
A dream to share was with the Gleasons, now with JB and McManus. Paul Nolan, which horse is suited to this one, do you think? I think you need a chaser sometimes for the Bumper.
Yeah, normally they end up the 3 mile staying horses. There's a horse I like in it, and I just he looked to be outpaced and looked like he was going to be beaten first time out in Leopardstown, but ended up galloping to the line. And I thought the last day, maybe it didn't go that quick, and it suited the flatbred horse of John Kiley's that came and looked very, very impressive. With his turn of foot looked brilliant. The young chap JP has bought him since, and young Gleason retains the ride. Be great for John Kiley if he go and win it. But I think that the horse that was second fact to file, he'll be 8 or 10-1, or maybe one of Willie's third or fourth horses to run in it. But I just think that he's a big galloping horse. I think he was bought from Donegal Doyles, and he just looks like a fella that he might be he might outstay horses if the ground comes up that bit softer.
Andy McNamara, Willie's won this race 12 times. Will it be 13, or is the prize going elsewhere?
Well, he's got the second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh favourites in it. So yeah, he's got an enormous chance of collecting again. With a dream to share, I'd say what the performance he's put in, I think, is the best performance in the bag. But that said, I would say other horses are open to more improvement than him. He's got a bit of a flat pedigree, and John Kiley is an extremely shrewd trainer, but he does have his horses ready to go, first time out. So I don't know if there'll be that much improvement in him. There might not need to be that much improvement in him. So I was going to go for one from a bit of left field, is Favour and Fortune of Alan King's. He's 2 from 2 and won well on both occasions. And as Paul says, he's got a good national hunt pedigree. He'll be staying on plenty more in time. But it's a very different line of form, the English to the Irish.
The final race we're going to look at is the Gold Cup on Friday, 3:30, the blue ribbon of the game. 3 1/4 miles, 22 fences to be jumped. Robbie Power, you know what it takes to win this race. Does the Willie Mullins trained favourites Galopin des Champs have the requisite blend of speed, stamina and jumping?
Yeah, he seems to. I mean, it doesn't. You don't know if they definitely say 3.25 miles until you try it. But it's just so interesting the way he's been trained this year compared to last season. Last season he was out in front, extravagant, exuberant, did all those things. This year, actually, at the Dublin Racing Festival, he raced behind the bridle. Paul Townend's done a brilliant job settling him, and Willie Mullins as well, training him to settle. As it's just phenomenal the way a horse can change so much in a short space of time. Um, and because of that, I think he'd have no problem staying the 3.25 miles. I will be amazed if anything outside of Galopin Des Champs or A Plus Tard win this Gold Cup. A Plus Tard was so impressive last year in the Gold Cup. Yes, very disappointing in Haydock on his first start this season. Hasn't been seen since, so you're taking a little bit on trust as to whether to back him or not. But he's a very, very good horse. His form around Cheltenham is exceptionally good as well. And I think he'll be there or thereabouts. If he's right, he'll definitely go very, very close. I think one of them two will win the Gold Cup. I think Manila Indo is way overpriced. I know he's getting a bit older. His form around Cheltenham is exceptional, and he improves for some reason £10 when he goes to Cheltenham. So I think as an each way bet in the race, Manila Indo has had the ideal preparation this season, has an each way chance in the Gold Cup. Hewick, I struggle to find, apart from Shark's romantic fairy tale story, I kind of find it hard to see how Hewick is good enough to win a Gold Cup. Lucinda Russell's horse, a High Seigneur, doesn't jump well enough around Cheltenham in a competitive race. The Gold Cup's going to have plenty of runners in it. It's going to be competitive. He won't jump well enough to hold his position. And definitely wouldn't rule out Braveman's game for Paul Nicholls. Paul reckons Cheltenham doesn't suit him. I don't know how he came to that conclusion, because he was beaten by Bob Ollinger in the Ballymore a couple of years ago and didn't run last year. I think he's a great jumper. He's a high cruising speed. I think he can sit there just behind the pace is a big threat, but I do think it'll be Galopin Des Champs or A Plus Tard who win the Gold Cup.
How are A Plus Tard and Manila Indo working?
Yeah, everything's been going 100%. They've had a great preparation. Obviously, we would love to have run A Plus Tard again after that disappointment in Haydock, but that just didn't happen. The Dublin Racing Festival was too close to Cheltenham for him. So, yeah, look, he's had plenty of work. He hasn't touched wood. He hasn't missed a beat to date. So, everything has gone swimmingly well for him.
There's also some staying types in the race. Statler, Noble, Yates, the Grand National winner. Paul Nolan, we can't obviously discount Conflated as well, as won two big races at Leopardstown. But where are you going in terms of your opinion on the Gold Cup?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I was just so impressed with Galopin Des Champs, the way he hit the line in Leopardstown. You know, he looked like his last couple of furlongs were his best in the race. He just won going away, to suggest that the hill and the extra quarter of a mile is going to be right up his alley. Like Puppy said, this year he's just racing behind the bridle, and it just seems that bit more simple. Again, if A Plus Tard brings his last, I think he was one of the most impressive Gold Cup winners ever. And you know, when he went to England last year and sluiced in, then get back to Leopardstown and ran that little bit, I won't say flat, but he was beaten by Galvin in Leopardstown, and then went back after that bit of a break again and freshened up and sluiced in the Gold Cup. Granted, it's very hard to have confidence in something off the back of such a poor run. But again, if the lads haven't got him 100%, he won't go. And if he goes there, he has to have a marvellous chance. And if he comes back to where he was last year, I think he takes all the beating. Again, you know, when you're looking at something, Conflated was a horse as well that was not very easy managed as a youngster, and according to the lads in Gardens now, he's a completely different horse than anyone would ride him now. And he's behind the bridle. He jumps far better because he's concentrating and he's settling, and he was a good winner. And he's definitely a good each way chance. And Noble Yates, first time back with cheat pieces, has been doing all his best work towards the end of the races that he's running this year, and it definitely comes into the equation if some of the top two don't bring their A game.
And Andy McNamara, who will win the Gold Cup on Friday and why?
I'm actually going to very much sit in the fence on this one, a bit what I've been all along. And the reason for that is it's such a good race. I mean, we often think, like, you know, we're looking at the angle of finding a winner and backing a winner. But sometimes you just want to watch a race for the event itself. And I think that's definitely the way I'm going to be with the Gold Cup. It's such a good race, and there's great depth in it. I mean, Galopin Des Champs is 6-4. I definitely wouldn't be backing him at that, even though I think he's an amazing horse. And I very much agree with what the two lads are saying. He looks a lot more settled this year. And the reason that's so important for this race is, you know, we spoke about the champion chase earlier, that you need to be aggressive for that and have an aggressive style of running. The Gold Cup is such a test of stamina. You need to be relaxed and conserve as much energy as you can. And he will need that around there. Braveman's Game is bolted up in the King George. He's definitely got a big shout. Aplutar, as you said, if Aplutar shows up what he did last year, I mean, that's going to be extremely hard to beat. I'll ask Puppy in a second. You know, Puppy looked like he was riding a tricycle up the hill once Aplutar went by him. Noble Yates have to have a chance. Statler has a little chance. And as you said, Conflated. So an absolutely brilliant race.
So no selection from you, Andy McNamara. Puppy, do you want to respond to this tricycle comment? And do you have a selection? One selection?
No, I thought going to the last in the Gold Cup in El Indo last year I'd win, and I jumped the last. He got under a little bit, landed, but Aplutar went past me up the hill. I've never seen a horse do that at the end of 3.25 miles. Off a gallop that wasn't a really slowly run. It wasn't a strongly run Gold Cup, but it wasn't. We didn't crawl around. It was a decent pace all the way. So it was an amazing performance, and as the lads are all saying, if he brings that performance back again, he's going to be very, very hard to beat. I think Manel Indo will finish in the first three, but Galloping the Champ is probably the horse they'll have to beat.
And one horse for you, Paul Nolan, the Gold Cup, is it Galloping?
You'd have to go with that, yeah. You would.
Okay.
On his performance in Leopardstown, the way he hit the line, he was very, very, very good, and he's the one coming in off the back of a good performance.
The neck and the block time, folks, at the end of our Cheltenham preview panel with Ball Sports. Andy McNamara, your nap of the festival is?
Constitution Hill at 3-1 on. If you're that kind of a man, I cannot see him getting beaten. And I better think of something a bit more. I'd say I'm going to go back on myself slightly and say Barry Connell's horse, Marine Nationale in the Supreme, just because how confident Barry is. He just cannot see this horse possibly being beaten.
It was like Mastermind. It was like Mastermind there. I'll start it, so I'll finish. But we'll come back to you, Andy. Paul Nolan, your nap is for the week?
I'm going to go Honeysuckle in the mayor's race.
Yeah.
And I think that even in the Ballymore, I think that Landrake of Barry Connell's, I think that he might be the better of Barry's two, even though Barry fancies the other fella more.
Goodland.
Yeah.
Goodland.
Yeah. Sorry,
Very
Goodland.
Yeah, no worries. And Robbie Power, your nap is?
Jerry Colomb in the Brown Advisory. I think he'll take an awful lot of beating in that. Yeah, I think he's a good price. I think he'll win.
That's on the Wednesday. Okay, your each way bets. Andy McNamara, what's going to pay for the holiday?
I'll stick with Historic Rick Hunts in the handicap, the Martin Pipe.
Robbie Power, your each way?
Each way, Manel Indo in the Gold Cup.
And Paul Nolan.
There's a horse in the handicap. There's a horse in the handicap, John, and I'm not sure is the horse of David Pipes. It's Tanks for Something,
right?
And Tom Malone was on a panel with us the other night, and he said that this is one of the biggest certainties as regards the setup for the handicaps in Cheltenham. Whether he'll go for the Martin Piper, the Pertemps, whatever he runs in, he's a big price at the moment. And Malone said he's a stone and a half well in.
Okay, sure. If you listen to Tom Malone, you'll always do okay. But look, hopefully one of yours does well, Paul. Look, I hope HMSC horse or Santa Clegane wins, or Metamorpheus or Weston Zara is the other one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks,
right, John.
Paul Nolan, Ball Sports Ambassador Robbie Power, and Andy McNamara. Enjoy Cheltenham week. Let's hope it's a lucky one. And thanks for speaking to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. We'll chat soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you, lads.
Cheltenham Festival coverage on Off the Ball.
With Boyle Sports. Epic. Cheltenham. 18 plus. Gamble responsibly. See gamblingcare.ie.